Chapter 2. My Father. From a mountain village to the bustling city of Shanghai. My father grew up in Liwu Village, Juji County, Zhejiang Province, a small, secluded hamlet nestled among the mountains. Lush forests cover the rolling hills, their ancient trees sharing secrets with the wind, while narrow stone paths wind through the thick underbrush, tracing the land's curves like veins of an old sleeping dragon. His village brought to mind the ancient Chinese poem, Ascending the Cold Mountain. I only remember one winter visit, a trek through deep, pristine snow when the rugged stone path truly felt like it was scaling the cold mountain. But most of my memories of Liwu are from summer. In those sunlit memories, Liwu was a warm place, filled with the earthy scent and grass, with air alive to the rhythmic buzz of cicadas. At home, we honored the traditions of rural Juji, calling my father Daedie in the rich Wu dialect, rather than the more common Baba used by most children in Shanghai. Nevertheless, his past has remained a mystery. Like my own early childhood, which is mainly unclear to me, I know even less about my father's journey to Shanghai. I never had the opportunity to ask him. The only pieces I've managed to assemble come from letters he wrote in the 1950s to his elder brother and sister, who had left the mainland for Taiwan before the communist takeover. From these old, ink-stained letters, one thing is clear. He must have arrived in Shanghai before turning 16, certainly before 1949, before the revolutionary red banners transformed the city and altered his world forever. During that period, Shanghai stood out from any other city in China, a vibrant and tumultuous metropolis, an international hub filled with opportunities, riches, and hidden dangers. For a young person from the mountainous region of Zhejiang, it likely felt as though he had entered an entirely different universe. What motivated his arrival? It could have been ties to family far away, or perhaps a strong resolve to succeed. However, the most vital fact was this: he was too young to join his siblings in Taiwan. His older brother, my uncle, was a soldier in the nationalists' government army. Had he taken that path, his destiny would have been drastically altered. Instead, he remained behind. As history unfolded, he became part of the new communist regime that emerged after 1949. From his letters, I learned that before 1954, my father was employed at the Sino-American Educational Supplies Company, a remnant of Shanghai's capitalist heritage that continued to function in the early years of the new communist government. By 1955, he had moved to the Shanghai No. 1 department store, the city's premier retail establishment, proudly situated at the center of commerce, at the busy intersection of Nanjing East Road and Shizang Tibet Road. Eventually, he was transferred once more to the Shanghai No. 3 department store, located at 28 Nanjing East Road, just around the corner of the Bund, and adjacent to the famous Peace Hotel. Many years later, during my time in municipal government, this iconic hotel would come under my oversight. My father's rapid ascent to a position in elite commercial institutions immediately after the communists took over highlights a significant point. Before 1949, he likely apprenticed at one of Shanghai's old department stores, where he mastered skills that enabled him to adapt smoothly to the new communist environment. Unlike many who faced hardships under communist rule, he had strategically positioned himself well. It was through this career that he met my mother. Although he hailed from a distant mountain village, my father had a natural sharpness, a quiet, steady intelligence that earned him respect. He was not just diligent. He carried himself with a rare confidence for someone of his modest origins. Despite never having attended anything above middle school, his education was evident. He must have spent several years in a traditional private school in his village, as there was clear evidence of his refinement. His handwriting was impeccable. It was beautiful, elegant, fluid, and deliberate, with each stroke carefully practiced and each character beautifully balanced. In China, particularly in cities like Shanghai, handwriting or calligraphic capability represented more than a mere skill. It reflected one's character and personality. It indicated levels of education, culture, and self-discipline. A person's handwriting could influence how seriously others regarded him. In Shanghai, a hub for poets, scholars, and intellectuals, this importance was amplified. This might explain why my father quickly established a reputation for himself despite being an outsider. Some of my most cherished childhood memories are those days when my father took me to work, bringing me along to his office meetings. These meetings often took place in the historic buildings on Fuzhou Road, Shanghai's renowned culture street, which was and still is brimming with bookstores and stationery shops and serves as the city's literary and intellectual hub. As a child, these excursions felt like exciting adventures. While my father participated in meetings with his colleagues, I would explore the maze of impressive offices, their dark teak walls gleaming with a rich luster, infused with the aroma of ink and aged wood. I would stand by the tall, steel-framed windows, peering down at the lively streets below, gripped by a strange fear of possibly falling out. Later, I would discover this fear is called acrophobia. But in those moments, I clung to the window ledge, my small heart racing as I observed the world of adults unfolding beneath me. Those were the most joyful times of my childhood, moments when my father's presence brought a sense of safety, allowing me to immerse myself in his world without grasping its intricacies. Despite his humble upbringing, my father held a surprisingly progressive and sophisticated outlook on life. His lifestyle reflected a hint of petit bourgeois elegance. Even during challenging periods, he confidently bought and treasured a Shanghai-made Seagull brand 120 camera. At that time, having a camera was extremely luxurious even in Shanghai. Yet nearly every Sunday, my father would take my mother, my siblings, and me to various locations all over the city for photos, eager to document our lives. Before we even reached our first birthday, my siblings and I were playfully posed on tables for nude baby photos. Such a whimsical idea that was pretty rare among young parents back then. Reflecting on it now, my father's love for photography feels almost daring, especially considering the tough times when many focused solely on essential needs like food and clothing. The world was rife with political movements that frequently sought to eliminate individuality, where embracing bourgeois tendencies could lead to severe repercussions. Still, my father remained steadfast. It may have been his strong-willed peasant spirit and charming defiance, or total ignorance, that defined him. Deep down, he perhaps never fully understood the core of communism. That unyielding peasant spirit, both pure and resolute, has been passed down to me in ways I began to recognize as I matured. Ultimately, he was a true peasant, untainted by the cautious, calculating nature of the local Shanghainese. He embodied both progressiveness, adapting to contemporary times, and deep-rooted tradition, with a strong devotion to his hometown and commitment to filial piety. Year after year, he made it a point to take our family back to Juji to see my grandparents. The journey from Shanghai to Juji typically began with a train. A fast train could cover the distance in 5 to 6 hours, while a slow train would take the entire night. Upon finally arriving in Juji, the county seat, we navigated through the packed carriages, stepping onto the platform as the lengthy green train cars rumbled behind us. And then there they appeared, the mountains, majestic and timeless. Their summits were shrouded in moving clouds. So different from the soft ripples of the Huangpu River in Shanghai, these mountains always filled me with awe and a sense of something vast, something beyond my comprehension. From the train station, a brief walk led us to the bus depot. My father bought tickets at a small counter window surrounded by iron railings while we waited on long wooden benches. Then we set off. The bus raced along dusty, winding mountain roads, jolting and swaying as it ascended into the hills. I gazed out the window as the landscape blurred past simple village homes, scattered fields, and streams glistening like silver in the fading twilight. This was my father's homeland, a lifestyle entirely distinct from my own in Shanghai. Upon disembarking, we were enveloped by the mountains deep and dense, stretching endlessly like a vast sea of green. The winding road to my grandfather's house twisted and climbed, rugged and relentless, covering about 6 miles into the heart of the hills. At one point, we passed by Qingshan Reservoir, a large expanse of water tucked away in the mountains. The stillness, darkness, and silence enveloped me, yet an inexplicable dread stirred within. It felt bottomless, a quiet, lurking presence that observed in utter stillness. In my childhood nightmares, it appeared sentient, a beast poised to engulf me if I dared approach. Even at the age of 10, I was consumed by the irrational apprehension that the narrow path along the dam would betray me, leading to a slip that would send me spiraling into its depths, never to return. We hurried past, navigating sharp turns and dusty paths. Then we came across an old, crumbling roadside shop that resembled a long-forgotten temple, its wooden structure sagging under the weight of time. After walking another mile, I finally saw it. At the end of the road stood a magnificent camphor tree, towering alone on the steep hillside, its vast branches stretching towards the sky. It was the first sight we encountered, the village's quiet sentinel, its leaves murmuring like echoes from history. Adjacent to it, perched on the hill, was my grandfather's house, a 2-story dwelling with white walls and dark wooden beams, distinctly different from the other homes in the village. This was the place where my father was born. It wasn't merely a house, it represented his history, one he had left behind but still held dear. In his hometown, my father was greatly admired. Each time he returned, it seemed as if a long-absent prince had arrived, welcomed with admiration, respect, and a hint of envy. His relatives were astonished. How had he married my mother, a sophisticated woman from Shanghai? To the villagers, this was nothing short of extraordinary. They would speak in hushed tones, shaking their heads in disbelief. Every visit resembled a grand event. The village would assemble, their weathered faces glowing with curiosity, envy, and mixed emotions. However, the villagers saw my grandfather quite differently. My grandfather's 2-story brick house loomed over the village. It was unique in its design. This house was a prominent feature in the quaint mountain village, embodying wealth and influence. On the first floor, a spacious guest room and dining area were elegantly appointed with intricately carved redwood furniture. Behind the kitchen lay an impressive pigsty, housing several well-fed pigs, ready for sale or for butchering during family celebrations. His home overlooked the village's central hub, an impressive temple hall with an expansive courtyard, surrounded by graceful wooden pillars and sweeping eaves. Clearly, my grandfather was the wealthiest man in the village. In addition, he was among the wisest. As a bamboo weaver and talented artisan, he had worked in Shanghai and traveled through neighboring provinces, experiences that should have garnered him respect. However, despite these qualities, many did not favor my grandfather. His proud and stubborn demeanor often came across as aloof and dismissive. He had little tolerance for small talk, and his caustic remarks did not endear him to many people. Even worse, he treated my grandmother harshly, often reprimanding her publicly, leaving her to weep in private. As time passed, she confided her complaints to the villagers, sharing her hardships and seeking solace in their compassion. At first, they felt empathy for her, but eventually, that empathy morphed into quiet resentment toward my grandfather. During our visit, the villagers openly ridiculed him.
Old Yongsheng, do you think you're superior to us? If you're so wonderful, why don't you remain in Shanghai? What brings you back here?
Their remarks were laced with sarcasm, and their smiles concealed sharp insults. They consistently compared him to my father.
Look at your son. He achieved something significant. He married a sophisticated woman from Shanghai. Unlike you, who chose a partner from a struggling rural village in northern Jiangsu.
This woman, whom he had met while working in the north, returned to the village with him and their son. The villagers supported my grandmother, seeing her as the wronged spouse, the loyal wife abandoned by her husband for another. Yet, despite their scorn, my grandfather remained steadfast, proud, and unaffected by their opinions. My grandparents were confined to roles dictated by tradition, circumstance, and life's burdens. Perhaps their struggles inspired my father to leave the village in his youth to carve out his own path. In Shanghai, he met a remarkable woman, one distinguished by her virtue, grace, and unwavering strength, my mother.